How's it going, everybody? Welcome. I actually need to update the title because I'm good at this.
Hashtag production value.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Halor, and I'm joined by none other than the cool kid of HOTS himself, Bababoeey. How's it going, cool kid?
Oh, I'm a bit too high. There we go. I'm doing pretty good. How about you, man?
Good. I had the chance to just add some leftover pizza to stuff my face. I was hungry. I was just doing some Hero League with Cavalier Guest, and a pretty wild set of games. So like our first game, we went up against 4 Warriors in Morales, and we had first pick Kael'thas, and I played Tychus. Had myself a good time.
So you guys won? You guys won?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
See, look, Flow Mage confirmed it. Cool kid. Cool kid.
Wait, yeah?
See it?
My boy Flow Mage? That's my boy.
We're
right.
making... This is a thing now. This is a thing now. Bababoeey is officially the cool kid of HOTS.
I hope so. I mean, I'm not here to be the lame kid, right? So.
See, we can't change these things. Once the ball, once the train leaves the station. Yeah, it's out there now. How's it going, Escarl? But for those who are seeing this for the first time, this is Meta the Storm, or hearing this for the first time. This is Meta the Storm, a show where we talk about the current meta of Heroes of the Storm. We talk about shifts in the meta, what heroes are becoming popular, what heroes are becoming less popular, changes in builds. We try to open up the discussion to heavily involve the community during the show, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Bababoeey's co-host with me. We had talked about doing this a little while ago, so I'm excited. It's always fun to pick the brain of the cool kids, the cool kid of HOTS, right? we casted the Sweet Synergy Challenge this past Saturday. That was a wild set of games. That was a bunch of fun.
Those were fun games to cast. That's a lot of wombo combo.
Dude, that Cho'Gall upheaval, twisting nether.
Twisting nether, upheaval, rain of destruction. Oh, baby.
Scary. Downright scary.
It was pretty gross.
But Bababoeey, did you hear that this past weekend there was a bit of a tournament?
Yeah, Sweet Synergy. We casted it.
Oh yeah. there was another much smaller tournament that went on.
Definitely less viewers.
This card says, for us that's trying to climb, it's so good to know what heroes are strong and how the meta is at the moment. That's exactly the point. I don't proclaim to be any sort of expert. So this is always meant to be a two-way discussion between the hosts of the show and the folks throwing in their opinion in the chat. I think this is so true, man. So yeah, if you guys learn anything, then we've done our jobs, and I'm really happy to hear that. But
I just want to say really quickly to Iscarl, regardless of the meta, play what you feel comfortable on. That is, if you're actually looking to climb, that is like the best advice I can give you. If like the meta is Greymane and you can't play Greymane, don't try and play Greymane when you can't play him. Just like if you have like 500 games on Gazlo, just play Gazlo. Like just play what you feel comfortable on, and you will climb.
I would back that 100%. Comfort picks are always better than meta picks, especially in the Hero League if you're doing solo queue or something like that. I recommend. I try to have a really good handle on 3 supports, 3 warriors, and 3 assassins, because you don't always get the hero that you are like a 10 out of 10 on. Yep. Sharaf says, "Will Tracer be okay after tomorrow?" I don't think so.
I think she'll be fine.
Yeah?
Okay, well, if I'm not mistaken, I might have to look at the patch notes again. But they nerfed... Hold on, I need to check the talent names. But they nerfed the recall talent level 1. I
think it's Spatial Echo at 7. So the way it works right now is if you hit E, you get 2 more charges at dash. Yeah. Whereas after the patch, you get 2 charges after you kill someone. And if you get the same kill... Oh, Slipstream, okay. Thanks. So if you get the kill, it's the same functionality, but the question becomes, are you going to be able to get that kill? So it's more of a high risk, high reward sort of thing. But I don't think people are really going to deal with it.
And the Gazelle was just an example. Not saying play Gazelle over Greymane.
Oh no, Bababoeey, we confirmed. We heard it here first, guys.
Play what you're comfortable on. If you're
Gazelle.
like a god tier Gazelle and a bad Greymane, then you play Gazelle. That's generally it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so looking at the talents, like they're nerfing Slipstream and Spatial Echo and Total Recall, I believe.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 nerfs that are coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a slight nerf to Recall in general. I think they're reducing it. Anyways, the talent you never took Slipstream, you always took Pulse Strike anyways, so that's fine. Doesn't really affect her. Parting Gift is like pretty much the standard talent, and like you usually just go and blow someone up and get out. That's about it.
Right.
And then Spatial Echo is really the only thing I feel like is going to change. You're going to maybe not take Total Recall anymore, but you might take, so 20 talent will change, but overall I think she'll stay relatively the same. And yeah, they were nerfed her Wave Clear, but if you were picking Tracer without Wave Clear, then you were doing something wrong. So.
Well, the reason why I think she will fall off is the way Crowan played Tracer over this weekend is a shining example of it, where he would dive in deep, but he always had the assurance that once he E'd out, he was going to be able to get away. So like, if he jumped in and he felt like he was going to get a kill, and he was like, "Oh wait, no, this is way bad," like he's just hit E and then dashed out with like no health. Whereas the level 7 change that they're making, once you commit, like you have to get that kill, or you don't have those dashes anymore, and that subjects you to a lot more damage. Like Crowan, on 5 different occasions at least, he would have been dead with the patches coming out tomorrow, just by virtue of not having those dashes when he didn't get a kill.
So, yeah, I get what you're saying. I do. I think her playstyle will change, but I think she'll still fit that same niche, where like you need to get onto the backline, you need to just blow someone up, and like you can just pick her and do it. Like,
yeah, I mean that talent definitely isn't like a defining trait of the character in my opinion, but that is a safety net that you're not going to have unless you are certain you're going to get killed. So it's just more like a caution thing. Scaro says, of course, that's what I say in the draft as well, but it's always good to know what's strong so you can have a broader view, and I always want to learn new heroes. That's the other part about learning more about Heroes of the Storm and what I try to accomplish with this. Even if you don't play like these meta heroes, just having the game knowledge that comes out of these discussions helps me as a player. Like when I'm playing Hero League, when I'm doing drafts and stuff, it helps me to take heroes that I'm comfortable with, but with a better understanding of the meta overall. To be like, oh, I'm good with both Vala and Tychus, but in this situation, it's better to go for Tychus. And I learned that in a previous episode of the story, stuff like that.
yeah.
Maybe Gaz works in bronze. I mean, I don't know. I think any hero could work in certain situations, but I think Gaz was underrated. What do you think?
Yeah, well, for those of you who don't know and like think I'm talking out of my butt, I am like master tier.
Hey.
I got it like the other day, and I haven't been
Congrats.
playing a lot. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch, been mostly just watching games. But like, you'll run into Gazlos in like master tier and grandmaster tier that can just control the game, and it's really frustrating because you never play against it, and then someone pulls it out, and they're so good at it, and they just win the game, like almost by themselves. Like you go against it on Infernal Shrines, and you can't walk up to the shrine ever because you die. It's like it's really good. It turns out it's good if you know how to play it. Like, that's exactly
I mean,
what I'm saying.
In all honesty, I think Gazlo is super underrated. He has the wombo potential, obviously, of the Gravabomb and stuff, but I think a really underrated approach to the hero is to go for Robo Goblin, because now you can target the turrets on who they go after. So if you're on a map like Sky Temple, where there's like a point control sort of thing, or any situation where Gazlo can kind of set up, and you're going up against a dive-heavy composition, like Karrigan jumps in, and all of a sudden, like 3 turrets are ripping her face off, and she's slowed, and then she's dead. Like, not too many heroes can bring that kind of like surprising amount of damage.
Yeah, and even like if you don't go for turret build and you go for the laser build, it I don't know how much they changed it with the rework, but it hurts. Like, a lot. I remember playing Li Ming and, like, going into guys, I'm like, it's fine, whatever. And then I'd get hit by one, I'd be at a quarter health, and I'd be like, what? Get engaged on by, like, Leap and just die.
Yeah, I mean, Gaslight does a surprising amount of damage, for sure. Floma's back about the Tracer discussion. What if you can chain the spatial echoes?
She's definitely a lot more snowbally with that change.
True.
Right? Like, when you're winning a fight, you win harder with that change because you're able to just keep going. But it's really a win more talent, and you don't need win more talents. Like, you don't want to take win more talents in that position just because, like, they don't help you win the game unless you're already ahead. So it's not that great. That's my opinion on it. I don't know what you think.
Sense. I mean, I agree that win more talents, they're spicy. Like, they add some interesting elements to how you play the game, but if you were already winning, like, it doesn't, you don't really need it at that point. And if the whole idea of the talent is to need it, or if you don't need it, then you don't really need to take it. That's my point. But A Pickle, Flome says nice insight. Thank you. So yeah, Burbank regionals. You had a chance to. It was in fact the thing. I assume you had a chance to look at a good measure of it. I know. Yes. I spent a lot of time. What would you say about? Well, actually, Mudslide. Sorry, I missed your question, man. Opinions on the double tank meta at Fall Regional.
Do you want it to, let's let you start, and then I'll give my opinion on it after.
I personally prefer a double warrior composition because when I played competitively, I was a tank / bruiser player anyway, so I just have an affinity for that sort of thing. But at a Hero League game earlier where I played Grey Main and we only had Tyrael as a warrior, and we went up against a Brightwing, and I felt like anytime I dove in, I was dead because I just pretty much got polymorphed, and then if I even survived all that, I just had to immediately back out. So I did next to no damage, and like, it just changed the whole way I had to play Grey Main for that game. But a double warrior frontline enables those, glass cannon style one-trick pony almost heroes to do what they do best, and it takes either a really strong single tank like Johanna, or I don't know. I just think with double warrior you can more reliably allow that carry position to do what it does. So I think it could have seen some more play. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm pretty much gonna agree. The age of triple backline is just dead. Like, if you play that and you expect to win constantly, like, unless you're gods, you shouldn't win with that, right? Just because teams are good enough to know how to punish you for it. The thing that's really kind of underrated about double tank is it allows your tanks to effectively switch who's getting focused. So, like, what happens when you run single tank is you have, like, Johanna in the front line, and she starts getting chunked, and then you have to leave the fight. When you have double tank, you can have, like, Johanna walk up, or, like, ETC walk up. He's getting poked down, and you're trading poke back and forth. And then when he gets chunked down past half, he can back out, and your second tank can walk up, like Tyrael can walk up. And then you're still going through this poke war. And if they're running solo tank, you're ahead because you can still engage. You can still reliably engage with a tanky frontliner. Mm-hmm. And they can't. So, like, they're going to get chunked down even further, and you just win those trades. Obviously, you're lacking a little bit more damage, but the key thing that tanks bring is CC, and, like, CC wins games. So
it for sure does. Something I want to talk about later on, but Bimmy says double tank, double support, make it happen. I favor that. It takes the right pair of support. I think you can get away with a lot more combinations for two warriors, but doing both of those puts you in a position where you could find yourself short on damage, and that ends up being a bad time. To kind of piggyback on what Baba said, having a double warrior composition allows you to have a contingency plan, because I feel like there's almost a measure of arrogance in having, like, a triple backline, because you're like, oh, we're just gonna throw all our abilities and we're gonna kill them and we're gonna put them on the defensive. But the moment that doesn't pan out, you don't have the peel to keep those squishy people alive, and you just don't really have the sustain to really enable that sort of thing. So it's almost like you either have to make that look really good, or it might end up looking really bad based on how it goes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like triple backline is definitely a cocky play. It's just like we're just gonna kill you before you can kill us. And the problem with that is if your tanks ever get double hardened shield, or if it goes past like level 20, you just pretty much lose most of the time because you can't bring someone down quick enough and you have enough healing. Which is why double tank is seeing so much play, is because like you get the CC and you get the long extended fights, which like people are realizing are a lot better since the stun met has died. Like sustained healers are coming more and more into play. Like Brightwing is just becoming better and better. Well, was like stupid good because just starve sustained fights, right? Like just stand near Brightwing and fight and you win.
Right.
So double tank is definitely the way to go right now. And I feel like if you're not going double tank, you always like you need double melee at the minimum out of your damage dealers. So like tank and a melee assassin, or like tank and a second off tank.
Yeah, I mean, at competitive levels of play, having a triple back line just exposes you to too much coordinated flanking, to where that warrior is just gonna get in my experience again when I play competitively, and much like, yeah, I remember playing. I would like to think I've improved as a player since then, but I need to sharpen those skills back up. But anyway, in coordinated play, and you're the only warrior and it's a triple back line, it's a very awkward balance to like go out and try to engage, but also keep your back line alive. So what would end up happening to me is like I would just stand there and get poked to death because I didn't want to leave my back line because I needed to make sure I was able to peel for him, but I also had to be forward enough to secure the engagement, and I would just end up losing out on both fronts. And it was like, all right, we needed like another melee or a bruise or a melee assassin or some other way to engage outside of just me, because this ain't happening.
That's exactly what double tank is really good at, which is like why it's so strong right now, is because single tank you can walk forward and CC people, but if you don't kill anyone with that and they have like a melee assassin, your backline just dies. And having the extra melee tank or like melee threat means that they can't just walk past you, right? Like it used to be you'd run like ETC and they'd just, okay, ETC power slid in, like just part around him and kill the backline. That's all that would happen, right? And then more and more heroes came out. Like I feel like it was pretty much the release of Greymane / the rework of Illidan, where it was pretty much like you have a melee assassin every game, and if you don't have a melee assassin, you're running hard tank and off. You're running 2 tanks.
Yeah, I just think, especially now that stun durations are a lot shorter than they used to be like 4 or 5 months ago, having that added sustain of another frontliner to some extent is more or less a requirement. Mudslide says, along with the fact that Tyrael is so good at the moment, double tank is great. Plus, Tyrael and Greymane is fantastic, so I'm not surprised at all, but for the same reasons you two are stating. Yeah, and that's a really cool pairing, because if the Tyrael can get the Sanctification off at the right time, that feels like an eternity being on the other end where you just can't damage Greymane, and he's getting go for the throat on your face, and you're just like, this is tough. I don't really know what to do in this moment. Like, Greymane, like, he's getting a shield afterwards, and there's this other entity in here body blocking and speeding him up. Like, this is tough. So,
yeah, for sure.
I like that combo.
I feel like the first time we kind of saw this, like, the melee assassin works not only, like, is a CC, and the fact that it just provides so much pressure. Like, my personal favorite memory of it was, like, a year ago when you'd run Kerrigan to Zebo, and, like, Kerrigan would jump in and pop Maelstrom, and then you'd pop Ravenous Spirit, and they couldn't interrupt Rav because they'd have to run away from Kerrigan. And then, like, it was just a vicious cycle, right? Because Kerrigan would be in there dealing tons of damage, so you'd be like, okay, kill Kerrigan, but then Ravenous Spirit would be on top of her, so you can't ever get close to her. And it was just like, you provided enough threat that you didn't even need to land the combo. Well, you still did, but like the CC of the combo wasn't as relevant. It was just like the
Right.
damage, so that they couldn't get to your backline.
That's dirty, man. That's tough. Shrafa said, how's it going, Shrafa, by the way? Maybe it'll be a thing one day. The super slows on Chromie definitely help for different types of comps upcoming. And
Oh,
and I would
if you
agree
want to
with
climb, learn Chromie. Broken,
I
100%.
I've played exactly one game of Chromie and I had top hero damage and I felt like if I landed those QWs properly, like they were just gone. And one thing that's really unique about Chromie, at least in what I've seen, you can take a super dive heavy composition and then take Chromie. Because then like a Noobrack or whatever dives in and while everybody's worried about that, you're way in the back, just like deleting people. So as long as they don't have like a Zeratul or another way to kind of dive, like if they set themselves up to have a defensive composition, pick up Chromie. You like what happens.
Yeah, and don't take the one-shot builds because most supports are good enough to like either cleanse it off or provide some preventative damage. Take slowing sands. It's pretty busted, especially on Towers of Doom.
Pretty busted.
Towers of Doom, Chromie is like, I feel like if I can get my hands on it and they don't have a really good dive comp, I can just carry the game by myself.
True facts. Bimmy says, poor Cho'Gall, we knew thee well. I don't know,
We saw
man.
Cho'Gall.
Yeah, Cho'Gall,
Twisting Nether,
Dude.
Upheaval, Rain of Destruction.
Bababoeey and I casted the Sweet Synergy Saturday Showdown this past Saturday. And his team ran Cho'Gall, Golden, and I don't even know if the rest of it even mattered. But it was just like point and click.
Bloodlust too.
Oh, that's right. Rhaegar with Bloodlust, and then there was like some melee assassin of
Thrall.
some sort. Thrall. So they would upheaval someone, or everybody, yank them all in. Twisting Nether would get popped. Then Rain of Destruction would go down. And then Bloodlust would come out. Saw for X. Like, everybody died. Like, every 60 seconds, it seemed like. Like, it was a full ace. Like,
Yeah,
it was tough. It was tough.
for sure. So, BC Lumas. I don't know if that's like Beak Lumas or whatever. BCL Lumas. Wants to know like 2 or 3 tanks that fit the second tank role because for a lot of backline players, they just learn to play backline, right? It's like you understand how to play backline, and then it comes down to you're like, well, I can either play. I'm comfortable on like a hard tank or a backline damage dealer, so you just pick the backline damage dealer. So why don't you give like one of your favorite second tanks, and I'll give mine. BC Lumas. All right.
Secondary tank, specifically Bruiser, right?
Yeah, well, like second tank you'd run.
Sonya. Sonya would be at the top of that list for me. And if they didn't have a ton of CC, I would go for Leap. I think Leap is a little underrated. Having the certainty of knowing that you can just hit R and you're going to jump and stun somebody, that's the difference between an Uther getting a Divine Shield off or not. That's the difference between a lot of things happening. If you can predict the flow of a fight and you're like, if we can lock this guy down in this moment and get that extra bit of burst, he's not going to be able to like E out or whatever. And I find it to be invaluable when I'm trying to play like that secondary Bruiser front lines.
All right, ready for mine?
Oh yeah.
Diablo.
NBA Jam.
So the reason I love Diablo as a secondary tank is you can actually get top damage consistently. Like, I'm going to tell you the build, and you should try this, Lauren, because it's great. It's my Diablo build that I run every time I play Diablo as a second tank. So you take like
Bababoeey.
Yeah, I was a Diablo 1 trick for the first years of the dorm. So this is how I got to rank 1, was playing Diablo only. Soul Feast at level 1, so you increase health regen. Okay. And then you're taking pretty much every single talent tier. You can take a Fire Stomp talent. You take it.
Okay.
And then you just Fire Stomp and walk at their backline, and they die. And it's fantastic. You get Diabolic Momentum too. And then if you can get the APOC charge flip combo, it's like perfect, it's disgustingly good engage,
Mm-hmm.
and the person almost always dies because you actually do pretty good damage.
Take notes. I try to run a similar. I do. I think I do health regen at 1, the Fire Devil at 4, battle momentum at 7, apocalypse. The waves come back at 13, and then the added move speed, and you do more damage at 16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. And then you can take Bolt or you can take Lord of Terror, depending on whether or not they're running double tank. If they're running single tank, usually you want to take Bolt so that you can initiate much more easily. And then if they're running like double tank or like a lot of divers, AoE Blood for Blood is kind of good.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I definitely. I think I've played the most games of heroes on Diablo. I think he's my highest character, in fact. Kyler Fortuna, again, by the way, says Dahaka best second tank, no question. I love Dahaka. We've done a previous episode on Dahaka. I think he's extremely, almost criminally underrated in the meta. You land those drags reliably, win yourself a lot of games. So I would throw him. I would throw Dahaka in that mix. But he does start to venture more into niche. Like, he has a pretty, I wouldn't say unusual playstyle, but you definitely have to understand the rhythm of when to get essence, when to do your drag, and really understand the goal of how you want to play Dahaka. Because the way I like to play Dahaka is like going for Hero Stalker at 4, and just like getting kills and using that to snowball so I can continue to keep myself sustained so I can stay in a fight, and then feeding Frenzy at 7 to get the drags more often. I generally find that like if I initiate with a drag and get a couple auto attacks, by the time I need it again, it's up for the second kill and stuff. So
yeah, I feel like Dahaka, Artanis, and Tyrael, specifically those 3, are like, in order for you to be effective on them, they need to be like level 8 before you play them in Hero League. Because they have such different playstyles from every other tank that you need to understand specifically how to play them. Maybe not level 8, maybe like level 7. Level 8 with a stim pack, but like level 7 without.
I would definitely agree with that. Definitely put in some time before you play some of those niche style of heroes. But I love Artanis as well. He's in there. Hey, Lord Boo. Sharaf asks, what about Stitches? So Stitches is a warrior I played a ton, and then I've kind of gotten away from him. I think, in my opinion, you need to be in voice comms or have at least a duo partner to really get the kind of value that one would hope for out of Stitches. Because it's like, you can make some amazing plays, but if your team isn't going to be there to follow up, it can feel like a waste a lot of times. So if your team isn't able to reliably secure those kills after you yank somebody out of position, you effectively become this like punching bag with no peel.
Yeah.
Which can be tough.
So I'm going to pretty much agree. Unless you're like really good or you're just feeling the hooks for that game, you just like, either you need a good coordinated team with like good follow-up CC and people who know how to play with Stitches, or you need to just be disgustingly good playing that game. And like Towers of Doom, I would take Stitches almost all the time because like everyone, you know where everyone's going to be because they have to go to the objective. And you can just be like, and that bush, and you get one, and then it's a free kill and free objective if your team knows how to follow up.
Yeah, so I think Baba and I are on the same page. It's something of a high-risk gamble to take Stitches, and you definitely get more value out of him if you have some form of coordination. Seraphic Dream, first comment of the night, by the way. Hey, Dapher, Stitches is pretty good in my opinion. I got GM playing Stitches 75% win rate. Very underrated. I mean, if you can land those hooks, and your team has any kind of follow-up, like, you pretty much terrify the enemy team, because it's like, I never want to get caught out of position. Like on Cursed Hollow, Stitch is just like hanging off on the side, like in those bushes, and then he just like yanks you in a position where you're just body blocked, and there's like a whole committee there. Feels bad.
Yeah, Stitch is like, so someone's saying you're assuming your Die Fear, you're assuming your team knows how to play. Lol. Yes, that is true. If your team cannot capitalize off of like a hook gorge behind a gate combo, then you should not be picking Stitches. That's like
So
if you hook a backline character and they don't at least get chunked to a quarter health, then you need to write in comments be like, hey guys, like please follow up on my hooks.
yeah.
And if that doesn't work, then go for slam build.
So a troll idea that I would love to do sometime. Stitches in Medivh. Fishing hook at 16, Gorge, Bolt of the Storm, Medivh portal.
I've seen it.
I've seen it. Full on abduct somebody and they're just gone forever. And you're just like, where did Uther go?
And
how is Uther right? Like how is Uther over there? What the heck? So I don't know. That'd be funny to see.
I've seen it done and it's terrifying.
Sure, I say, hey, you grab Kael'thas or Jaina, everyone knows what to do. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So pretty much Stitches is if you feel confident in the hooks, he can end a team fight before it even starts. To be honest, like you yank their Vala before the shrine phase and they die, they're just like, oh, I guess we're just gonna go soak now. Like, what are we gonna do?
Go back to lane. Like, Stitches is the hero you play if you can land like 4 early game hooks and just tilt the enemy team so that they lose. That's if you hook the same person 4 times, you just get picks before the objective. The enemy teams just start slamming each other, and like you win the game because psychological warfare.
Yeah, and that's a good time. You just have to be able to pull it off. But Lord Boot asks, what are we discussing this week? So as we've seen, you know, we just kind of answer the questions and go with the flow of the overall conversation. But I did want to talk about some key specific points about Burbank. There was a lot to take in and consider out of that as far as the meta is concerned. The hero we will be discussing this week is going to be Tyrael, which I think is very relevant to Burbank and how that played out. And just ask a few questions. I wanted to try to pick Bababoeey's brain here a little bit to see.
Apparently, I'm the cool kid of HOTS. So.
Oh yeah, for the guys just joining now, Bababoeey is officially the cool kid of HOTS. I give people nicknames all the time, and Bababoeey is the cool kid of HOTS now.
Sounds good. I always want to be a cool kid.
You are. So the fall regionals, I was really excited to see him because I honestly didn't know who's going to come out on top. I think the general favorites were Naventic and Gale Force Esports, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's 2 things I'm really surprised about, and that was Gul'dan's game and Denial. Because neither of them... Gul'dan's game got knocked out really quickly, and Denial didn't even make it to semis. And that was, like, mind-boggling to me.
I feel like out of this recent roster apocalypse, the playing field has been even in a lot of ways. I think we saw a lot of scrappy, if unrefined play over the course of the weekend. I think overall the general skill level of the North American professional scene's going up, but the pull the trigger coordination synergy that is going to be required to take a serious run at the global stage isn't there yet for teams like Denial and like Gul'dan's game. So hopefully they can get those sorts of things ironed out for PAX. Age both times are less than a month old. Would you feel that they need more time to mesh? Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was talking about. It's just like I don't know. I don't want to criticize anybody or anything like that. But from what I've seen historically, like for Denial specifically, Glaurung will either look like a superhero or he will dive in and put himself out of position to get blown up. And it will either win his team the game or it's going to lose his team the game. So I think if he finds a way to be more consistent on that front, they will be a much stronger team. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Baba are.
Yeah, I think kind of what this tournament showed was that what's really important is team synergy. Vox, for one, like they just know how to play with each other, and Murloc Geniuses ended up winning the whole thing. Like those four players have been together for so long, and like they said they were a group of friends who just happened to like all just like, let's just keep playing together. Like we all want to play together, so let's do it. And like that's the best way to build a team is like, hey, like we're friends, let's just play. And then, you know that you're gonna work well together, and you trust each other because you're friends. So it just works so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always been of the mind that 5 good players that know how to play well together are going to be better than 5 all-stars that just kind of do their own thing. I think we actually talked about this before, Babu.
Yeah, I think we talked about it.
Like before we casted? We've talked
Maybe?
about this before.
We did talk about it for sure.
Yeah. But BitMe makes a really good point. Like, these teams will have a somewhat meteoric rise, and then the moment they don't find the success that they assume they are deserving of, they just kind of start changing the roster around, and they end up kind of shooting themselves in the foot, in my opinion, because they never actually achieve the level of synergy that a team like MVP Black or someone like that would have.
Yeah, you need to build up the trust of your teammates. And I know we talked about this before because I've talked about like the need for respect for your teammates and trust for your teammates. Pretty sure we talked about it during the cast. And it's just like as soon as one player starts thinking that they need to carry the game or the team in any way, you're going to start losing because that player starts trying to go off and make the all-star plays instead of making the coordinated, calculated play, which will win your team the game 90% of the time. They want to make that highlight reel play because they think they need to, right?
Agreed. Differ says, like Denial, then go Super Saiyan like any of the other teams that showed up. Damn. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the teams showed up just feeling very presumptuous about how things were going to go. I know Gale Force Esports didn't think that they were going to lose out to Vox. I know they didn't expect that.
I was like, okay, like Gale Force is gonna win. Then I was like, had kind of game 1 open, and then like they won game 1. I was like, wait, what? And they 2-0'd, right? I think so. Yeah, they 2-0'd GFE, and I was like, hold on a second here, something doesn't feel right. And then Murloc Geniuses 3-0'd them, but that was Murloc Geniuses just playing super well.
In that specific set, Gale Force Esports against Vox, from what I saw of the VOD, I didn't see the entire set, but it looked like they were more or less phoning it in. Like, they just assumed that they would win, but then Vox came out, like, playing at 100%, and if Gale Force did the same thing, they probably would have won that set. But since they had this kind of quasi-lackadaisical approach to the set, they found out. They found out. Like, these amateur teams, they're gunning for you. They're gunning for your spots. Like, nothing's guaranteed in the North American scene anymore, which is very exciting to see. But these top teams have to be aware of this.
I felt like the GFE that showed up against Vox was completely different than the GFE that showed up against Naventic.
Oh,
like, completely different teams. Like someone went in the back there and was just like, hey, smarten up, and then they just like turned everything around. So
yeah, I mean they got their bell rung, like more or less, and they were like, oh, we don't want to go home. Like, we're supposed to be in the finals. We need to shake this up a little bit. So I mean, they showed the capability of playing at that high level, or else they wouldn't have gotten to the finals. But you're going to need to do that across the board. You cannot assume any of these amateur teams are just going to be these walks in the park that they might have been a little while ago. Differ said, well, when GFE said that they still knew how to draft things, they forgot what is drafting during Burb. And, okay, so here's
before we talk about Gale Force's drafting, sorry, but
okay, go ahead.
I want to talk about something that a good friend of mine has been talking about for months.
For months!
And I know you know what I'm talking about, so you can go ahead and take over.
Oh, no, I mean, that is definitely something that I wanted to talk about. I know we kind of joked about it back on Saturday, but the finals, man. I love Gale Force Esports to death. To death. They're my favorite North American team right now by no small margin. But I don't know what they were doing in games 4 and 5 as far as drafting goes. I did not understand where they were going. Like
You want to just look at the drafts?
Yeah, I'm just going.
I have it up.
I need to switch the screen over because I'm good at this. All right.
Are we switched? What's going on?
We are.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Game number 4, Towers.
Yes.
Cool.
So. The problem that they ran into, in my opinion, in games 4 and 5, should have made themselves apparent in game 4. I'm looking at this comp. It's Tyrael, Greymane, Rhaegar, Tychus, and Tracer. How do you engage with that?
So before I'm going to talk about this a little bit more when we get into Tyrael, but you need to eat a skill shot with the level 13 talent on your shield, so you get the slow, and then you need to hit a blocking fielded Eldrain's Might, and then you can engage. That's pretty much it. Or you go Judgment and you blow someone up with Tracer, but Uther, Lily, you're not gonna blow, or Uther, you're not gonna blow someone up against. That's not gonna happen.
I guess it's something that our good friend Inverum said a number of times. Stuns win games. And if Tyrael was ETC, they probably would have won that game. If it was anybody that had a stun to start out their composition or their engage, they would have had an infinitely better shot at the game. What it seemed like to me is Gale Force Esports felt super confident. They're we've been looking like all-stars on Tracer. Crone's been playing out of his mind on Tracer. Rafflecopter, he feels really good about Tychus. We want to have Greymane. We're going to do so much damage that, it almost doesn't matter what they try to do. Or we're just so committed to playing our game. But the thing that they forgot is that damage is going to be coming back towards them as well. And in those initial moments of a team fight, a power slide is going to be all the time heroes like Thrall and Li Ming are going to need to do enough damage to you to where you're I don't know if I can really hang out here and just keep fighting because I'm already at 40% of my health. And that's something that ETC brought to the table every 12 seconds with his Q. And it's something Tyrael only brought to the table if he pulled off a miraculous sanctification, pretty much.
Yeah. Murloc Geniuses had second pick. So I have the order of draft open. So it was first pick Tyrael, which I just want to say I like because Tyrael is. I'm really happy that any teams are picking up Tyrael. I think he's stupid good. And then Murloc Geniuses went Li Ming Uther, which is okay, you take away Li Ming from Crowan, which is good, and you get Uther, which is also a pretty high tier support right now. And then Gale Force went Greymane Rhaegar. And those picks are really good so far. I like all of those picks. I don't disagree with anything yet. But then Gale Force ended up banning Medivh. And I don't understand 100% why. The Murloc Geniuses banned Illidan and then Gale Force banned Medivh. So they might have been worried about a Kerrigan coming out. But I'm not 100% on that Medivh ban. It's a lot of seconds of invulnerability. I guess it's going to save one person. So they went for this let's blow up one person comp, right? That's why you ban out the Medivh is to take away that mitigation. And then Murloc Geniuses drafted Thrall ETC.
Right.
So Thrall ETC is just good. You can put T-Shield on Thrall or ETC there, and they're going to do a lot of work. So it provides good peel. I like those picks from Murlocs. And this is where I don't like Gale Force's draft anymore because they had this super good, we're going to dive your backline and kill, just annihilate one person. And they go, okay, you know what works really well with that? Tychus. And if you don't know, Tychus is not that's not gonna be what happens, right? Like, if that was like a Sylvanas with Wailing Arrow, that's better. If that was like a Leap Sonya, that's better, right? It's just, I don't like the Tychus pick. And then they went Tracer, and like, okay, that could have also been a Sylvanas, and I would have liked that more because you can just de-shield whoever gets pulse bombed anyways, and like you're trading cooldown for cooldown.
Yeah.
And then last pick Lily, and Lily's disgusting for months. So
But somebody has been saying it that Lily.
Whoever's saying it must be pretty smart.
Yeah, they were on to something. But I 100% agree with you. I remember sitting there watching this draft, and Gale Force had those last 2 picks, and I was like, Tassadar for Rafflecopter, Dealer's Choice for Crowan, GG. And when I saw it was like Tychus and Tracer, I was like, you only needed one of those. You really only needed one of those. And you put yourself in an absolutely perfect position to get countered out by Lily because you've tripled down on primary auto attack damage. And who's good at sustaining through that while blinding you to prevent you from doing it while you're having your face power slid on? Then Lily. Like,
yeah.
it was tough. Okay, good.
I get the theory behind drafting Tychus. Like, I understand ETC's going to power, like, anyone who walks forward is going to get, and I believe he ended, I don't have the talent. Does it have the talents?
I don't know if it goes that far.
Anyways, I believe he went for the bigger they are talent.
Mm-hmm.
And like the logic behind it is really like it's pretty smart because the idea is whoever comes forward gets minigun in the face and they're at 40% health, like pretty much instantly, and then you can blow them up with gray material.
Right.
The problem with that is you leave yourself open to Tassadar, and you also leave yourself open to Lily there. Like they went Lily, so they lost all of their burst. And the reason I love Lily with Uther is because Uther has really high single target healing, but he's very cooldown gated. And the problem with Lily is that she doesn't have a ton of burst healing, but she isn't cooldown gated. So when you combine the two, you get like D-Shield and Cups. And if you ever get the full Jugs channel off, midway through a team fight, you just win the team fight.
100% agree. I mean, preaching to the choir, man. I think Uther and Lily are a very potent combination because they both answer the loop, like the holes in how they approach supporting. And Lily kicks out enough damage to where you don't really feel like you're missing anything by going double support. Bitme has said that Medivh's W is undervalued. And I would agree with that in general. I'm surprised we didn't see as much Medivh. Like, I don't know how much. I don't remember seeing any Medivh games personally. But I think he's just one of those high wire, like high risk style of heroes where it's like if you don't make it work, it's going to be apparent in like the first 5 minutes. And you better hope that didn't cost you the entire set. I don't think any of them wanted to go down that road.
Yeah, Flowmage brought up a good point that there's no interrupt for Jugs. And even if Tyrael went Judgment, you're going to be able to pre-cleanse Judgment, and then Jugs still doesn't get interrupted. Like, Gale Force pretty much... The only way Gale Force wins this game is if they can like instantly kill 2 people because 1 wouldn't be enough.
Right.
Like if they can instantly kill Li Ming Lily, then they win the team fight. If they can instantly kill any 2 people, they just win. But if they don't get that initial burst and insta-give someone, like game over. And that's exactly what we saw happen, right? They were winning the early game, and then Murloc Geniuses was like, okay, and they brought it back, and they won because they just like they stopped dying right away, and they out-sustained them hard.
Yep. I mean, it almost made me wonder, like, are some of the hero pools just on the thinner end at the, like, the Tychus...
But Tychus could have been like a Muradin. Like,
well, I was thinking, like, if Rafflecopter went for Tassadar, and I even with that, I don't really like Tracer. I think that if Chrome went with Kael'thas there, they would have had that game because it would have been another interrupt for Mosh. It would have been an interrupt to how Murloc geniuses tried to engage. I just think the biggest hole in their composition is they have no way to stop damage from going on to them. They just either have to withstand it or outrace it. They don't have a power slide. They don't have hard peel to really interrupt something outside of sanctification. And that's just not consistent enough to deal with that kind of damage.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that the last minute of this game, and I tweeted about it, I was like, that was the most sloppy play I've seen out of Gale Force ever. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch the game, but it was 12-14 in health, and then Udall gets caught, and then they chain deaths and they lose the game. Udall was standing in a bush and just died for completely free, and they lost the game off that.
I remember. I was just like,
and after that I was like, are they tilted? And then the next game was evidence that it looked like they were pretty tilted. They did not look like the same GFE.
And Disappear, thanks for follow, by the way. I try to look at this stuff through the lens that, these are human beings playing the game. There's a lot on the line. There's a lot of pressure. I'd be freaking out if I was in their position. So I definitely am forgiving and understanding of mistakes. I just want it to be clear that we're just speaking objectively about this stuff. He got caught out. There's no
yeah.
That is an objective truth that happened. So again, I'm just want to make it clear, we're not trying to slander or talk bad about anybody. It's just we're trying to have a discussion about why the meta is the way it is, why things can happen.
Yeah, I think those two last picks lost them the game.
Oh, definitely. And then
it put them in such a hard position to win the game that if Murloc Geniuses lost that, then Gale Force were just so much the better team that they deserve to win.
Yeah, let me go back to game 4 real quick. So yeah, Tassadar Kael'thas, with respect to the comfort picks of Gale Force Esports, I think they would have had a much better job or a much easier time. But ideally, Tassadar Sonya in that composition.
Well, what I would have actually liked to have seen is Muradin Tyrande, and I know Tyranda's fallen out of favor very heavily, but your whole idea with this comp is to insta kill someone,
yeah,
and then get in there, and you can do that with Muradin. You can go give him the Axe Muradin, and then you have good sustained damage and good CC, and you can just. You hit a Stormbolt, Lunar Flare, Hunter's Mark, and that person dies. And they have to load E-Shield.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. Lord Boo said that he didn't even get caught out. He just stood there and died. Yeah, he was literally just in that bush, and then that power slide came out, and he didn't even get to press buttons. He was just gone. And it was just uh-oh. That's not good for business.
Yeah, not I think the thought process was, I'm going to wait here, and I'm going to get a really good flank and insta-kill Lily. I think that was their goal, was we're going to force, and I'm going to be in a really good position to flank. And if they don't check that bush, maybe Gale Force wins that fight. And I think maybe that was the only way they win the game there, is get a really good flank from Udall and Tyrael combined and get on the back line.
Mm-hmm. But
it didn't work out. And because it didn't work out, he looks like he threw the game. And it might have been the play they had to do, but it just didn't work out, and it makes them look bad. And you can obviously be results oriented and be yes, well, they lost, so they the play was wrong. But if it works 60% of the time, then it's still the right play. Even 51% of the time, it's the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sucks that people aren't going to think about. I mean, we didn't even think about it. Was it the right play to win the game? Was it the only play they had to make? Did they have to make that play to win the game? I feel maybe they did, but I'm not sure. Because I don't see how else they're winning team fights.
the impression that I got was like he was just more trying to keep a lookout because I think they were getting that siege camp, right? But
I think so.
that moment kind of speaks to the problem I have with their drafts for game 4 and 5. Because even if Michael's thought was, I'm gonna wait for Lilia to rotate down and I'm gonna blow her up, that makes sense. But you're not accounting for the fact that they have CC that your team doesn't. And by the time you try to get that damage off, they might have already done enough damage to you to where you can't execute that. And I feel like that's a concept that if they had that in mind more, they would have gone with different picks.
So the question I have to ask though is there any other way for them to win the game there? Like, are they in a position where they can win the game? If like, let's say he doesn't die there, right? Like, let's say he's with his team taking the siege camp, and there is 5, he doesn't get caught. Do you think they can win the game? Like, barring Murloc Geniuses completely throwing.
I think their composition is based on such a Hail Mary and misplay from Murloc Geniuses that I don't know. I don't know. Like, in a straight-up 5v5, whoever Greymane jumps on, they get Divine Shielded. Everybody gets a Power Slide. Everybody gets a Mosh Pit. You have to have, like, some kind of God-tier sanctifications. Some beyond crisp play out of everybody. And Murloc Geniuses have to do something terribly wrong for this to really... Like, you're losing 2 people on the side of Gale Force Esports with this composition. Like, you don't have the peel, you don't have the sustain. Like, somebody's gonna die, and you can only hope you've done enough in that time to win, but they weren't going to. So I don't know. They would have to get like a pick, something awkward. Like, they would have to capitalize on a mistake, and then that goes outside of even having a draft. Like, Murloc Geniuses need to mess up, in my opinion. And they weren't doing that.
I think I would have liked this. I think with a Sylvanas over a Tychus, you can win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Just, like, thinking about it, because you can, like, Wailing Arrow Judgment combo kill someone.
Right.
And you get the vulnerable at level 16 with Cold Embrace. Like, maybe you can do it. I don't think Tychus Tracer. I think we talked about it. I don't think Tychus Tracer was the correct picks, and they lost in draft. The only thing I'm trying to consider is that last, like, minute. Yes, like I said, it was really sloppy, but was that play by Udall correct in, like, more than 50% of the time? Or was that the only play they make to win? And I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to get a pick to make that work in that moment. So, yeah, Lord Buitt said, I don't think the Tracer is what made their drafts weird. And for Game 4 specifically, I don't think it was either. It's just Tychus and Tracer share that same space of, like, paper-thin damage dealer that you have to protect to some degree. And when you have 2 of those on your team and you don't have a reliable stun, or you don't have reliable CC to allow them to do what they do, you're gonna look at Game 5. Like, you're just not gonna win that one.
So we can move on to Game 5. I think.
Yeah.
I think we talked about how much they lost in draft. Enough.
Oh yeah. So Game 5. The big thing that hurt my feelings about this game, Solo Warrior Leoric.
Okay, do you want to go through, like, team comps, or do you want to go through draft?
Let's go through draft.
Okay, so Gale Force had second pick.
Right.
And Murloc Genius's first pick, Zag, which is so smart.
Right.
Like, I remember watching this draft because we were on break, and, like, they weren't talking about. So they went Zag first, and I was like, oh, like, you just have the entire bottom half of the map is yours now. That's
right.
it. And then Gale Force went Falstad Uther, and, like, Falstad is good, yes, but here's why I don't like the Uther pick is because Murloc Geniuses goes Zool, and now the bottom half of the map and the top half of the map are Murloc Geniuses. Like, they win both sides because Zool can solo soak top and mid without missing any experience and getting structure pressure.
Right.
And Zagara can keep control of vision and just bully anyone in the bottom lane.
100% agree. I mean, my heart sank once I saw Zagara Zul leaving. Because it's exactly like you said, Zul rotates between top and mid and soaks those lanes, and then everybody else is in the bot lane just running you over.
Yeah.
Like,
and typically, like, the way you punish this double specialist comp is they can't have as strong team fighting because they're running double specialist. And then they pick Li Ming, and it's like, well, now they still have god tier team fighting.
right.
And then bans came through.
Yeah, the other bans go through.
And it was really smart to ban Sonya
Mm-hmm.
because it prevents them from trying to just win the PvE game. They could have just
Right.
picked, like, if banning Sonya here means they can't go like Johanna, Asmodee, and Sonya, have good wave clear for mid, like Falstad has to solo lane bottom, and then you can just have consistent camp clear, and you can play turn-ins. So I really like the Sonya ban. And then
Yep.
Tyrael ban came out for Gale Force.
Which I get. But
'Cause
if you're
I don't.
well,
like,
I would
explain it
say
to me.
I would get it if you were looking for a knockout punch. Like if you were going for like some kind of high burst damage hero to where it's like, oh, I don't want sanctification to just negate like my cooldowns. But if you're gonna go for Falstad and Tracer, those are more sustain oriented people. So do you really need to worry about sanctification like that?
I don't think, because Falstad's actually good into sanctification because they'll like jump in and they'll sanct, and then you can gust everyone who's not in the sanct away, and like, okay, they have sanct, but usually you're only getting like two maybe three people in sanct, and then you get like a 2v5 for like a couple seconds after sanct pops down, and like you can usually kill someone in that.
Right.
So I legitimately don't understand that ban. Because it says two things. It says, one, we're not playing a melee assassin that synergizes well with Tyrael.
Right.
And keep in mind, they banned this before Sonya was banned. Right? Like, if you leave Tyrael Sonya open there, Gale Force can actually just take Tyrael Sonya as those two rotations, like, on the right side. And if they take Tyrael Sonya there, like, that's disgusting.
Right.
But they ban out Tyrael for some reason. I legitimately do not understand that ban.
Yeah, I mean, those are compelling. Yeah. The other thing that was really. So, even if you want to end your comp with Tacit or Tracer, right?
Well, they ended it with Tracer. So
well,
like,
yeah, they
next
went
is
for
Leoric.
Leoric. They went for Leoric, Tacit, and was like, okay, I hope they don't go solo Warrior Leoric. And then Rhaegar and Murden got picked. And I was like, oh, so they're going to go ETC. Right?
And then they didn't.
Right? And then
Yeah.
they picked Tracer, and I was like,
I think this was literally the only game that ETC wasn't involved in.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure, might have been one more, but I think it was like a 98% involvement, and this was the one game. And like, again, the problem I have is they're running triple, like, okay, double backline, kind of triple with Zool. Like,
Yeah.
they're running a really high sustained damage backline. You're not getting good value out of Drain Hope, right? Delaying actually isn't as effective on black cards because you can get a pick, back up, do camps, and then do something else and provide cross map. Like, this is probably one of the easiest maps to provide cross map pressure on because there's so many camps. I think they were going for that comp where they were like, yeah, we just delay and we run Leoric and it's okay because we know how to play with Leoric so well. And they ran the same kind of thing against Naventic, right? But Leoric is so squishy as a tank. Like, if he ever uses Wraith Walk aggressively, he just dies.
Right.
And if he misses Drain Hope, he just dies.
Mm-hmm.
I hate Leoric as a solo tank.
Me too, man. I was just like, So they want to lose. Like they just want to lose. Like if Leoric was ETC, they had a really good shot. But
Like even take Leoric ETC instead of Leoric Tassadar.
yep.
Like Leoric
Yep.
ETC, Li Ming's never gonna get a reset. Ever. And you have decent wave clear from Leoric, so you can run like Leoric Falstad can actively clear top, and then ETC has such good ganking pressure you can just run bottom with him constantly and negate Zag's pressure.
Yeah, and I mean it goes back to the whole you have no hard CC to either engage or save your backline. Like Leoric slow did nothing to stop Murloc geniuses from running all over him in team fights. It's just I just feel like you need hard CC out of your solo warrior. And
The only thing that like saves this comp is Entomb gust everyone else away. That's like it.
and they never really got to pull that off.
And then if you Entomb Zagara, she just maws 5 people because you all clump up to kill her.
I mean,
Ugh.
I
Anyways,
those are just high stakes things to bank game 5 on. If Leoric was ETC, I feel like they would have found themselves in an infinitely better position. And again, if Tracer was Kael'thas, I didn't understand how Kael'thas and ETC weren't there. I just don't. That deep into the draft, game 5, you had like we've seen ETC Kael'thas a lot because it's good. Like the power slide in the gravity lapse is all the time Falstad would need. All the time any of them would need. So you got those options floating out there. You know they're not going to take Kael'thas because they already got Li Ming. I don't see how you do it. I'll say you leave it out there.
like you pretty much know exactly their comp when they draft Zagara, Zul, Li Ming. Like you know exactly their comp. They have almost zero flexibility. Like, okay, we're going support healer last 2 picks. That's it. And
Right.
yes, you can like be flexible with support healer, but generally there's like one thing your support healer is gonna be like, or support tank is gonna be like, CC, heals, and that's it. Like, cool, we got CC and heals. It puts you in such a good position, but they didn't capitalize off it at all. Like, taking Leoric Tassadar puts them in such a bad position too. Like, why not take Tracer Tassadar? I get, maybe you don't take Tracer Tassadar, but why not take like Leoric Tracer if you have to take Tracer? Right? And why are they not running Asmodan? Like, I don't. Also, they have no one to clear camps. Like,
Yeah, that was the other thing. It was almost like they thought Leoric still had wave clear.
Like
I don't.
Yeah, because you need Tracer. You pretty much need Tassadar, Leoric clearing top and mid, because those 2 combined will give you enough. And then you can have Falstad solo bottom and Uther Tracer roaming around, so they can get picks. Cool, but you have Zul Zagara solo laning, so you have 3 people roaming around if you're Murloc geniuses. So they can't secure picks. You're not able to secure picks in the bottom lane because, like, you can't because it's 3 people, or it's 4 people against 3, and then you have, if you want to, you can have those 3 people clear camps.
Yep. I mean, another interesting thing.
Sonya was banned. Lord Boo.
Yeah, Sonya was taken off the board. But another thing about taking ETC instead of Leoric in that spot, you got to worry about the split push potential out of this composition that Murloc Geniuses has, right? If you take ETC, that kind of more stringently makes the point of, can I afford to go Nidus, or do we need another interrupt for Mosh? Because how many do we really have, right?
I think you could still take Nidus.
Yeah.
Because Li Ming just goes Wave of Force, and Rhaegar, and unless he hits Rhaegar and Li Ming, you disengage effective. Like, you can cancel it. Unless he gets, like, the D-Shield. But they had D-Shielded, like, why did they not pick ETC Kael'thas? ETC Tassadar, and then they go Rhaegar Muradin, and you go Kael'thas last pick. Like,
You win. you've done yourself such a service in that immediate order. Like,
And it's
being
not
the
even like
second
they
pick.
drafted map specific to be like, hey, well, we need good wave clear. Like, we need good camp clear. We need wave clear, but ETC Kael'thas can do that still. Like, it's not like some Leoric Tassadar Tracer brought more to the map than ETC did. ETC Kael'thas did.
Right. I think the big story or the lesson I took out of this set is you can't rely solely on heroics to engage a team fight. You gotta
No, you
have
can't.
something more consistent, because the conversation that was going on in chat, it's like, oh well, and like you said, like they got engage, they got mighty gust, or they got entomb and mighty gust. And if that's what you got to engage with, you better hit those like a champ every time, and you better know not to fight outside of those being up. And that's just too thin a margin for professional play. Like, you need power slide or storm bolt or condemn. Like, you need some kind of alternate way. It's like, all right, cool. Like, if we have these heroics, then awesome. Like, we can do power slide or we can do mosh pit or whatever. But these non-stun heroics, you're not buying yourself enough time to apply your damage. You're always eating a ton of damage, and it more or less becomes a crapshoot to whether your team lives long enough to even do what you were trying to do.
So I'm actually looking at Gale Force's drafts, just from like semifinals and the finals, and I noticed that they almost never draft, like every game that they drafted good engage, like most of the games that they drafted good engage and follow up to the engage, they won. I mean, they ran like ETC Kael'thas and they didn't win that game against Naventic, but like, okay, Naventic went double tank and Naventic is really good and they're winning the sustained fights anyways. Like, Naventic was playing that really well. They had Lunara, so they were chunking them down before they actually engaged. And then they went like the Abathur comp with Tyrael and stuff, so it worked out because they had the ability to, like, they didn't need to engage because they could just play the long game.
Yep.
And they went a hard engage comp. They went Anubarak, ETC, Tracer, and like whoever you jump on is going to die there. But then the next time they went Anubarak, like ETC, Tassadar, Tychus, and like that was the last time they picked good hard engage.
Yep.
And they lost because their hard engage had no follow up. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's tough.
I feel like they weren't prioritizing engage enough. And like the games that they won, they had enough engage or they had enough dive potential that they could force engages. But whereas like either they got countered by the Lili and they got countered by a good disengage, or they just didn't pick good enough engage. Like, you don't have good enough engage with Leoric. That's why he's bad as a solo tank.
Yep. I'm looking back through some of the comments in the chat. And I can tell you, I can't imagine anybody's more disappointed than Gale Force Esports, because we've all seen them play exponentially better than that. And that's what would burn me up if I was in their position. Because, like, I'd be like, I know we've drafted better than this. I know we've played better than this. We could have had that. Like, I just remember specifically games 4 and 5 of the finals. I was like, how do they engage? How do they start a team fight and expect to live? Like, you gotta stop them.
Didn't they remove their coach? And I could be wrong about that, but they had a coach.
Sunshine was the coach for.
And they removed him because he wanted them to play Asmodan more, right? Something like that.
I believe it was along those lines, yeah.
And like the question I have is, if you have that person over your shoulder saying, guys, you're forgetting engage, then are you going to like, oh crap, like we're forgetting engage, and you have that extra person, that extra open mind, instead of being like, okay, well, I'm Crow and I want to play Li Ming here. And they're like, yeah, Li Ming, like your Li Ming's good. And instead of thinking like, what can we pick here to make a really good team comp? They're like, what good picks can we take here? All right. So instead of, I feel like they weren't looking at the big team comp picture. They were looking more at the picks on a hero by hero basis.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and I do think that this might have shown to them that the sixth man could be incredibly valuable to how they approach competitive Heroes of the Storm, because like if you remove player skill, personalities, if you take the players out of the situation and you think of the meta and you just look at the drafts for what they are, in this draft for game 5, if you ask yourself why would you take Leoric, Tassadar, and Tracer over ETC, Kael'thas, and anything else, the objective answer is,
Like,
oh, we should have just taken ETC Kael'thas. Like, what were we doing? Like, what were we thinking? So having that 6-person be like, excuse me, ETC
you guys want to
Kael'thas,
engage?
ETC Kael'thas, you guys need to engage. You gotta secure kills. You gotta be able to stun them when they try to leave. You have to stop them from doing damage to you. Hey. Like, I just didn't understand. I didn't understand. I'd be curious to hear the thought process behind it. I don't know.
Again, I legitimately think it was just like what heroes are good instead of what team comps are good.
Right. So, hard engage is important. It's a thing. That's the story there.
And I want to point out, okay, if you look at Gale Force's Game 5 versus Naventic versus their Game 5 versus Murlocs, they won Game 5 against Naventic, and they had Illidan instead of Tassar. It was like the exact same draft, but instead of Tassar, they had Illidan. And the difference, the major key difference there, right, is that when you take the Illidan, you have someone who can negate the pressure that you lose from having no engage, because you can legitimately just run at them. Like with Illidan Tracer, you can just run at the backline and you're okay.
Right.
With Tassadar Tracer, you run at the backline and they're like, okay, she's shielded, like throw some poke at her and she has to recall. And then you heal back up if you're Murloc Geniuses, and then you can force an engage because guess what? You have hard engage.
100% agree. Yeah, that's a really good point. Kyle Fortuna says you can live without hard engage if you draft poke sustain.
Okay, the problem with that is you still need a way to engage once you get them to half health. And I know what you're thinking. And when Kael'thas was like the god that he was with Flamethrower Ignite, I played competitive at that period of time. You could draft like Nazebo Kael'thas, but if you had no way to follow up on that ridiculous amount of poke, like you'd poke them and sure you'd get like a tribute once, but if they ever were able to get hard engage, like you lose the team fight, you lose the tribute, you lose so much, and you never got kills because like, okay, I can poke you down to a quarter health and then you can walk away because we have no way to follow up.
Right. I just feel like you need to be able to confirm engages and kills outside of just heroics. Like, Pulse Bomb is nice, but you can't rely on that in every team fight. Like, you need like a stun or something. Like, I know once I hit this button, they're dead. Like, they're dead every 15 seconds. That like they're out. And the other thing about going without hard sustain and trying to do those poke kind of compositions, if the enemy team sniffs that out at the right point in a draft, they just take a dive comp and run you over before that even becomes a thing.
Yeah, you used to be able to do it when like Illidan got nerfed to the ground, so he wasn't played anymore, and there were only really 2 dive tanks, and it was Murden and Nubarak, and Nubarak wasn't that great. And like we ran this comp all the time because it was just busted. We'd pick Murden, ban out a Nubarak, or vice versa, and then get Kael'thas Nazebo.
Right.
And they had no way to count, like they had no way to engage heavily. And if they did, like, okay, we can disengage pretty effectively here, like gravity lapses, zombie walls, we're okay. Like we can stop one person diving. And then like the counter to that was Blink on Jaina, but you just banned Jaina. So like it worked really well. But now you have like Kerrigan's back in the meta, Illidan's back in the meta. You have ETC with extra range on power slides, so you can't get away from as effectively. You use Dwarf House more aggressively on Muradin now. Like Nubarak is back again. You have Leap Sonya as a thing. There's just like there's so much more that you can do now to counter it that you have to. It just doesn't work as well.
Yeah, Hammy, how's it going, by the way? If you don't have Engage, you have to wait for the other team to mess up. But that's NA right now, anyways. Damn. Yeah, I just feel like if you go for a sustained thing, you're putting too much in the hands of the enemy. California Fortuna then asks, what about Greymane as your finisher? I think Greymane is the perfect blend of poke and engage / burst. Like you're in human form. If you're trying to play the poke game, you have like Greymane Lunar or something like that. He's in human form. He's poking. Lunar does the poison damage. The moment someone's at like 25%, go for the throw.
Yeah.
Like, but you still need that hard engage burst element to that. So
yeah, like if you dive in, even if the person's low on Greymane and you're diving into like Rhaegar or Uther, the person probably won't die and you're probably going to die. So like you need some sort of follow up with you. Like you can get Tyrael in there, yeah, and that's like you need someone else. You need a dive buddy with Greymane. If you don't have that dive buddy, he's in a lot of trouble.
True facts.
And speaking of Tyrael.
Yes.
Hero of the week?
The hero of the week that we wanted to talk about is Tyrael himself. I'm really excited to talk about this because I think this is something that North America has missed out on for so long. Tyrael, he's a tough nut to crack, but we saw the kind of value he brings to competitive Heroes of the Storm, and I was very interested to hear Bababoeey had to say.
Well, first of all, I want to ask you why you think we didn't see Tyrael as much in NA. Like, why teams didn't pull him out.
When the meta was kind of forming, Sanctification didn't function the same way as it does now. So it was kind of like looked over in a lot of ways. Also, when stun durations were longer across the board, it was much more enticing to opt for stuns and hard engage out of warriors like that. And I don't think people understood the value that he brings to the table of, you know, the shields. He synergizes really well with melee assassins. Like he puts the E down, and Greymane can walk after someone, secure kill where he may not have been able to before, or he helps his melee assassin get away. And in the meta back then, like you didn't really see melee assassins that much. So I just think like the meta shifted towards things that he can enable really well.
Okay, so I think that's why he came into the meta. But the theory I have behind why they didn't pick it up, and I mean I'm willing to discuss this because I think it's definitely a possibility that I'm wrong, is that NA, much more than Korea and China, is very dominated. Like the players are very dominated by their egos. And when you have someone like you needed a main tank player because you weren't running Tyrael really solo tank, so you needed a melee assassin, and you need someone who could play a melee assassin. You need someone who could play Tyrael at the same time. And when you have that ego on team where they're like, well, I want like people want to be the carry and they don't like being the support. Like you need that mindset of being able to support your teammates, and I don't think people were comfortable giving away that carry potential. Do you understand? Do you understand where I'm going with this? Like people wanted to be able to put the team on their back and directly put on the team on their back, not sit there and go, well, I made Greymane do a better job of getting on that backline. No, they wanted to be like, I got on that backline and I killed everything. But not only did like they want to do that, they didn't think their teammates could do it. That's like my personal thoughts on it. That NA just didn't value and respect each other enough to run it.
I think that's a really good point. It pings well. Hammy said, I just don't think NA has many melee proficient players. To be honest, the mechanical skill isn't there to perform. You do think about pro level melee assassins. There's really only a handful, like McIntyre, Glaurung, Michael Udall. I mean, as far as standout playmakers, that those are the top three. I can't really think of, but I mean, I just might be missing.
Yeah,
people.
I'd just say like, I don't know if you said Glaurung, but like Glaurung,
Yeah, Glaurung's
Udall,
in there.
Fan, Mac are like my top four, right? And those are like players that specialize in melee assassins.
Zuna, Fan. I mean, Zuna's been playing more warrior these days, but
I think Zuna's actually a good example of someone who has started to give up the ego. He obviously had like a big ego when he was like, give me something I can carry on. I just want to carry this game. Right. But I think at the same time, that's like I'm just feeling good right now. But I think he's doing a really good job of stepping back and allowing his teammates to like, and just becoming a playmaker. Like having the brothers on support and tank feels really good.
I think that playing warrior is something that Zuna really excels at. He has the melee experience, and he tends to be out on the front line one way or the other, whether he's playing Murden or Sylvanas. So give him a hero in a position that really enables that and allows him to, kind of shine in that capacity.
Yeah, regardless.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
So might as well just pick someone who doesn't die. I'm sorry.
Zachary,
that was pretty good.
Zachary said, "How do you gauge mechanical skill?" Just curious, Baba. I would wonder how you would answer that first.
Mechanical skill is a mixture of game sense and reaction time. So when you see someone make an outplay, it's not because they reacted so effectively. It's because they've been in that situation so many times that they get a feeling for it, right? Mechanical skill is like a really weird thing to say because the key things you'll see are like positioning, and that's like that comes with experience, right? Like I've played against, like, not me specifically, but I've played against Dylan enough times that I know his dive range. I know that if I get in dive range, he'll dive on me, and I know exactly where he's going to land if he dives on me from that position. So like you can predict it, right? You can be like, okay, well he's going to dive on me like now, so I can shoot at the stun now and to land on him when he falls. Right? It's the ability to be like, okay, his cooldowns are roughly this, and he's going to do this now. And you can like the ability to read your opponents is a lot of mechanical skill, or is the ability to read your opponents is what's important, and then the mechanical skill is the ability to capitalize on reading your opponents. So like if if you can start analyzing like, okay, Stormbolt's going to come out now, and you can juke it, half of that is mechanical skill and half of that is game sense, and when you put them together, that's like how you know you're becoming a good player.
I would 100% agree with that. For me, mechanical skill is being able to play skill shots, being able to position properly, the tangible execution of the game. Game sense is more a term that I feel I find myself using more is technical ability, where you do understand how long cooldowns are. You understand that broader sense of how the game is playing and being able to predict those sorts of scenarios. Like something super simple along those lines for me is like Jaina. If I see that Jaina's used Blizzard, I know I can jump in a lot more reliably as Greymane because now I don't have to worry about that getting dropped on my face. Or if I see Polymorph go out on my tank, I know that's when it's a good time for me to jump in there. And I might be able to press the buttons really well, but if I don't know when to jump in like that, if I don't have that game sense or technical ability, I'm not going to get a chance to press the buttons because I'm going to be dead.
Yeah, that's what I think applies to mechanics, right? Is to know how to take advantage of your game sense. Yeah. Right? Like you say, yeah, I know that the Jaina like throws out Blizzard, so like I know I can go in. But the other part of that is knowing, okay, she threw out Blizzard, Kona Cold, and Frost Lancer or Ice Lancer can go out right now. So like you juke to the left and then you jump on her, right? Yeah. Those are your mechanics. Like you Dark Flight onto her tank and then go for the throw back to her because you know all of her skills miss and she has no way to respond.
Right.
Like not using your abilities on cooldown just because they're up, but using them effectively because you know that something else is going to happen. Right? Like using your Q on Greymane when you know the Stormbolt's coming out to dodge it and keep going. That kind of stuff.
Another aspect to add on to that is a phrase I would tell my team a lot. Amateurs keep doing it until they get it right, but pros do it so much they can't get it wrong.
Until they start thinking about doing it right, and then they get it wrong.
Well, more or less. But it's just like take Chu's team for example. He doesn't like he isn't in the competitive scene like that, but he streams full time and he plays the game so much that it was more or less a seamless transition because he has that game sense and ability to know how the flow of the games go, whether it's good or bad, and how to respond to those situations. So that kind of game sense is one of those intangibles.
Yeah.
Donison asked, do y'all think the best NA team made it to BlizzCon this time? Sorry if you answered this, just join in. And welcome, by the way. I think the best team that day made it to BlizzCon. I think overall, objectively, Gale Force Esports is a better team, but they did not play to their potential.
I think that the best team that weekend was Murloc Geniuses.
Right.
And I say that because I think that Gale Force needs to fix their drafting issue before I can say they're a top team in NA again. Like, yes, well, I guess they are a top team. Before I can say they're top 2, they need to fix their drafting. Because that last set, I think they have the mechanical skill to be the best team in NA, and they have the game sense, they have all that, but drafting is like, if they can't draft properly, like we clearly said, like they've lost the last 2 games in draft. Right. And yes, hindsight's 2020, like we can say that, but your job in draft is to either win draft or get so close or like get it exactly even.
Right.
If you ever get out drafted, then like you deserve to lose.
Yep. I agree. Gale Force needs to tighten the drafting up. They have the technical ability and the dynamic playmaking potential in their current roster and the technical consistency, but I don't know. They weren't winning those games with those drafts. Yeah. Yeah.
The only question, I feel like Murloc Geniuses just drafted 100% better.
Right.
And I think that was the difference. I think that Naventic might be a better team than Murloc Geniuses in terms of mechanical skill, and they can outplay them. But I think that Murloc Geniuses has a much better drafting phase. And we saw it because they got 2-0'd, and then they came back with this, like, renewed energy or something, and they showed incredible drafting. Anyways.
Right.
Tyrael, level 1, what's your talent?
I still go Regeneration Master, personally.
Yeah?
I know it's...
I do too.
So some of these other talents definitely are interesting. I don't really like Purge Evil because I don't think Tyrael's job is or should be to do damage. And when you have some of these other options on the table, I don't know, 30% more damage out of that doesn't seem to... But I think something in a very coordinated sense, I would probably go for Protection in Death.
I would either go... well, Protection is 50%. I didn't realize it was 50%. Jeez,
right.
That's a lot.
For 10 seconds.
Was that buffed?
A little while ago, yeah. Like, I think it's super underrated. Like, it's...
I think... Now that I see... Like, I didn't realize that number was so high.
Like, even imagine in Burbank this past weekend, if B-Kid died and then went back to, like, Greymane and everybody on his team and then blew up and they all had half their health for 10 seconds in a shield, like, that's pretty much, you know, sanctification without being able to ignore CC.
I think I would actually, after I see it being 50% of their max health, I think I'd probably take that over even in death.
Yeah. I would...
I think if you're going solo tank, you want Regen Master, but if you're not going solo tank, you can go either even in death or protection.
Right.
And if you're coordinated enough, I think protection is better. But people have been going even in death because they want the utility out of smite and shield.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about Tyrael nowadays is that you can gear him towards different goals. Like, if you have a dive heavy comp, like if you have Greymane or someone that's supposed to dive in there full YOLO, then it would behoove you to have, like, even in death, I guess, like, to have that added damage and you can get the Q to specifically put yourself in a spot to do that added damage. But if you are the solo warrior, the idea is to play Tyrael more defensively, then Protection and Death is stronger talent, in my opinion. What do you go for it for?
This one I actually don't know. I liked Amplified Healing. I know that's not like the go-to talent. I think Swift Retribution is really good. But if I'm ever going solo tank, I usually go Amplified Healing because I think that I usually combo regen and Amplified Healing because I like that. I think it feels good. But Swift Retribution is arguably the better talent.
We are on the same page. For Tyrael and Shin, it's really hard for me to pass over Regent Master and Amplified Healing. I just think Amplified Healing still salvages Regeneration Master. Like without Amplified Healing, I don't know if I feel so incentivized to take that.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that Swift Retribution combos really nice with Even Death, so it really helps dive comps. But
true.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. Like, I don't like Vigorous Strikes. I think that Lifesteal is not great at all.
I don't think it's consistent enough, really.
Almost terrible, but yeah.
Difer says, I think from all the Tyrael games that was played during Burbank, only Protection and Death was the only one not picked, with Even in Death being the most. For me,
it makes sense. Sorry, but it makes sense because you go Even in Death and you go Swift Retribution, and then when you die, you get the movement speed for your team, so they can capitalize on that extra damage too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the more I'm sitting there thinking about Protection and Death, like
50% of your max
50% of your max health for 10 seconds, like. You imagine like a prolonged team fight that's taking like 10, 15 seconds, and then Tyrael's the first one to die, and you got like Kerrigan or someone else on your team, and then they suddenly just get half their health back? Like,
yeah, like
I think that's pretty slept on.
That's
good.
I thought it was like 20%, to be honest, and I saw it, I was like, whoa. Whoa.
Like if you're running double warrior, the other warrior's like a Sonya or like a Bruiser or something like that, or you got like Asmodee or something like that. Diablo? Yeah, like I don't know. I might have to play around with that some more now.
I didn't even realize. Jeez.
What do you go for level 7?
Either Reciprocate or Angel's Grace.
After teleporting.
Movement speed. I think movement speed is like the most valuable talent stat in the game.
Yeah. Now that they've taken away battle momentum from this tier, I generally go for Angel's Grace as well, because my goal is just to like surprise body block people with Tyrael, like that. Q past them, body block them, tie them up long enough for the rest of my team to get kills. That's kind of the goal of how I play him. So having that added move speed makes it that much easier to just like position yourself to get those last couple of auto attacks in. That would be the difference between them dying or not.
Yeah, I think that Reciprocate is really good if you're running that heavy dive comp and you're being used as a damage dealer. But if you need those body blocks out of Angel's Grace, it's definitely a lot better because it just provides so much utility.
Tyrael, Greymane, Sonya, Kerrigan meta confirmed.
And I think that Tyrael has the 2 best designed ults in the game. Maybe.
It feels good to hit somebody with Judgment.
Yeah, like I think that both are the fact that you can use both pretty consistently. Sanctification it's probably like 70-30 or 60-40, but that's like a pretty good spread relative to most other tiers.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think Judgment should have a cooldown of 70, maybe even 60 seconds. 80 seconds seems like a long time for a stun that a hero like Dahaka gets on his Q.
I want it to be the same cooldown as Cleanse. Because like the fact that you can negate his ultimate with Cleanse is kind of crappy. And then it has a longer cooldown.
Right.
Oh yeah, Li Ming is the other one. So Li Ming would be my favorite alt design in the game.
Balance-wise and flavor-wise, I feel like Zagara is starting to rise in that conversation. I think they've really salvaged Nidus Network. Before it was just like Sorry, guys, I misclicked. Like there
Giving it,
was no reason.
yeah, it was like we're running Abathur, and that was like
Right.
the only time you ever used it. Giving it battle momentum was like really good.
Yeah, Lord Boost says the point of judgment is the knockback. It helps isolate a target to be dived and killed. And I get that and I agree with it. But you think about what judgment can do in that 1.5 seconds compared to what sanctification can do in 3 seconds for your team. It's hard for me to understand why judgment would have a longer cooldown. Like, it seems like to me sanctification should be 80 seconds and judgment should be 70 if they want to go with those numbers, because it's like I don't know. If you want to dive on someone, it's better to queue in and then sanctification and then let your team jump in there in those 3 seconds than that actually judgment them.
Yeah.
So it kind of loses out on its own purpose to the other heroic. So it's like, oh, and the other one's on a shorter cooldown? Okay.
I think so. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So
I think that the reason they don't want judgment, I think it's the reason it's not as good is because they don't like the idea of just like you and then everyone just like, all right, precision strike, go for the throat, blessed shield, you're dead. I guess they don't like that idea, but the fact that cleanse just insta counters it is kind of a little bit annoying.
true. What do you go for it at 13?
Imposing will 100% of the time.
Agree.
It's just like you play the character so differently because you can tank like a skill shot, you can tank like a flame strike, you can intentionally get hit by shadow dagger, and then they're slowed by 50%, and 50% is like a good amount. You know what? Precision strike is good, all right? Die
Kappa.
fear.
Kappa. I mean,
Nova at 16 is good. She just sucks until she's 16.
heard it here first. Confirmed.
Anyways, imposing will, like you tank a skill shot and then you get a free engage off of it. So
Yep. We're on the same page so far. What do you go for at 16?
holy ground. That's it. The fact that it just offers too much utility to not take. The only time maybe is like if you're running into 6 tanks and you're like, well, I'm dying. I need blood for blood.
Right.
But pretty much just holy ground every time. Especially because you just steal boss. You're like, oh man, it's my boss. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I feel like Holy Ground is the defining trait for talent for Tyrael, and Blood for Blood would be like that audible where it's like, oh, I need to adjust, but you've kind of already lost that game at that point. Like, if you have to change gears away from Holy Ground to try to keep yourself alive and or do damage, there were problems way along the line before you got there.
I mean, I guess you could run like Judgment Blood for Blood and get extra burst.
Yeah.
But
And how do you close out at 20?
this one is actually like pretty versatile, I feel. If you have Sanct, you can't like Hardened Shield or Holy Arena are the only 2 picks. I don't think Nexus Blades is at all. And Angel of Justice. Actually, it makes it a 40-second cooldown. That's pretty good. I didn't realize that.
Wow. I thought
Okay,
it
that's
was
cool.
only like 10 seconds or something like that. That's pretty much
that's
the hunt. Like that's more that happens more often than the hunt. Hunt's
and it's a
6
good
seconds.
range. Like that's actually good.
Nice.
But Hardened Shield is just too good to pass up most of the time.
Yeah, I feel like Nexus Blade is just there like if you are like in quick match or something and like
Yeah. If you're going like Purge Evil, Vigorous Strike, Searing Attacks, like Angelic Might, and Blade of Justice, you can go Nexus Blades and
right?
just demolish one person.
Pfeiffer says Nexus Blades is a surprising amount of damage on Tyrael. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think you need Tyrael for damage. Like if you do, you got problems.
It's not the fact that it's not good. It's the fact that Hardened Shield is so good that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like 75% reduced damage is disgusting.
Yeah, so I mean, we're almost at the 2 hour mark. I think we can start to wind this down. Thanks for the first time, people here.
It's a lot of fun. I learned
Yeah,
stuff about Tyrael that I didn't know. I didn't know you got
right?
50% of your max health. Jeez. Or 40-second cooldown on Judgment with a 50% increased range.
Yeah. I'm gonna play around with that. So, my name is Lauren. This is Bababoeey. You can find me on Twitter at _Lauren. Where can they can find you, Baba?
At Bababoeey Gaming on Twitter, at /Bababoeey Hots on Twitch. That's about it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, thanks for
I'm
everybody.
liking Lord Boo's commentary in chat. All
Let's
right,
go
team,
for
we're going
Jaina.
in. Focus Morales. Morales dies. All right, boys, go for Jaina. All right, Morales is back up again.
All right, guys. We do this Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern. Be here next week. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Till then, gonna sign off. We'll do viewer games next week, I think. But all right. See you guys.
See ya.